Hi guys, my name's Jeff. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before, fantastic. Take a seat, stay a while. If you haven't, take a seat, stay a while. Because today I am going to show you how to become a ferociously smart stock investor. So I'm going to tell you how I discovered this ability. And I'm going to give you 3 examples. And the third one, I believe, is the most important as far as stock picking goes, but you won't be able to understand it well until we go through the first 2. So the first is this. Know when the teacher is wrong. And you also need to know when the teacher is right. And this is something I learned through just a brilliant remark that Charlie Munger said during a talk he was giving or an interview that he was part of. And he said you need to know when the teacher is wrong, because if you're in a class and you just write down everything the teacher says into your notebook and you study it and spit it back on the test or whenever you're quizzed on it, that doesn't mean that you're learning anything useful. It doesn't mean that you're thinking. So he suggested that in life you're going to be much better off when you can think independently, think for yourself, and come to your own conclusions. Back when I was about 19 or 20 years old, I was really into photography. Like, I loved it. And that's what I did with all my free time when I was with friends, after school, whatever, on weekends. I loved taking pictures. So one of the things I was thinking of doing when I graduated from college was becoming a photographer. Or something else that I pursued in college, I majored in biology. I took all of the chemistry classes. I took organic chemistry and genetics and all those classes, cell and molecular bio. And I was thinking of going to med school and becoming a doctor. And I remember talking to somebody who was really close to and who I valued a lot, and I said, "What do you think? Should I be a photographer or should I be a doctor?" And he said, "I think you should become a doctor because you're going to make a lot of money as a doctor, and then in your free time, when you go on vacation, then you can take your pictures and you can enjoy your photography." And I remember that really clearly. I just repeated it to you word for word. And it was really a tough choice that I had to make, but I chose photography. And I chose it because in the end, as much as I studied biology and chemistry through college, and that's what I got my degree in, my love of photography, my absolute excitement about being a photographer was so strong that I just thought that if I were to spend 4 or 5 years going to medical school, then doing a residency, spending a lot of my life, and then to become a doctor and then spend most of my time probably in hospitals, seeing patients or doing surgery, I just thought, that's not what I want to do. So I was fortunate enough that I thought for myself. I knew that the teacher was wrong. And I didn't mean wrong like I was right, he was wrong, but looking back on it, I think the suggestion that anybody pursue a career solely because they can make more money at it, I believe that's wrong. Now, there was another time where somebody that I really respect and that I like a lot, he's a good friend, gave me some, I would almost call it advice, but I remember a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had bought a house and I'd lived here for a couple of years, and he gave me this suggestion, which was, he said, interest rates are really low right now and you might want to refinance your house. And I thought about it because he's a really smart guy, really smart and very successful in a lot of ways. And I thought, well, if someone smart tells you to do something, you'll probably be better off listening to them. I thought about it, but I didn't really do anything. I didn't refinance the house because I just thought, I got a pretty low rate when I bought the house, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time going through all that paperwork and all that stuff. So I just didn't do anything. Well, it turned out that in 2020, in the midst of the whole pandemic and everything, interest rates hit, I think, a historic low. Interest rates when you go to refinance, were about 2 or 2.5%. And that's what I wound up doing. I just refinanced my house then. And it was an incredible opportunity, and something like that may never arrive again. It's gonna save hundreds of thousands of dollars on the mortgage. Incredible how much you save compared to 4.5% or 6.5% or 8% or whatever. So anyways, that was another one where, you know, you need to know when the teacher is right or when they're wrong. And I'm sure that at the time he thought this is a good time to refinance. Now that we've had a few years, time has passed, it would have been a lousy time. You know, I would have spent literally a couple $100,000 more over my lifetime earning money. That's years of my life to pay the refinance at that higher amount. And just by waiting a couple years and being ready, being prepared, wound up being the really good idea. And so anyways, that's another example of knowing when the teacher is wrong. Here's the third example, and like I said, this is the one that really applies to investing in stocks. And this all went down in 2020. So we're talking 2020 started, you know, like any other year, we all were doing our thing back in January and February. And, you know, I'm a photographer, I was taking jobs, I was working. You know, when the pandemic hit, it smashed the stock market like nothing else. And there were tremors, there was some volatility in February, and then in March is when the market really started to crash. You know, everything was compressed because we had a lot of fear in terms of what were we gonna do, how do you stay healthy, how do you not get, you know, the whole deal. And I just remember thinking, this is the time to invest. And it was a scary time too. But I remember that the person that I learned from the most about investing was Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett, he's the one who said, be greedy when others are fearful, and to be fearful when others are greedy. But that's the main one right there. That's what stuck. So when others are fearful, you want to be greedy. I gotta say, it was tough. It was tough because you were looking at the apps or you're looking at the websites and you could see the stock market down hundreds of points every day. You know, the market was down 7%, 8%, 9%, 10% some days, and then maybe the next day it would go up and then it would come back down. And so within that framework, with all that happening, I paid attention to what I knew deep down was the right thing to do when other people are being fearful. And so I went ahead and I invested. I maxed out my Roth IRA. We're talking March of 2020. And then I just took a chunk of money. I'd never invested in a small cap ETF. I invested in a small cap ETF. I also invested in the Vanguard 500 ETF. And I'd never invested in an ETF at all, but I'd been learning a lot about them and I understood them thoroughly, what they do, what they invest in. And so during the course of March, I made some big investments. So last weekend was the 2022 Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting where Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger reflected on the company and the last few years and investing in general. And Warren Buffett admitted to this crowd of like 30,000 people that back in March of 2020, Buffett did not buy stocks. Now, Buffett mentioned this in the context of explaining that he does not try to time the market. I think he has a good point. He wasn't trying to figure out when the best time would be to buy stocks. That's not his scene. But to me, as a student of Buffett's, I knew that the teacher was right. I knew the teacher was right when he said to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. And I knew people were being fearful, and I knew it was the time to be greedy and buy stocks. What's fascinating is I had what Buffett refers to as an inner scorecard. And what that means is you really don't care what other people are thinking or what other people are doing. You can ignore the stock market and all the other investors who are freaking out and selling their stocks. And obviously I ignored what Warren Buffett was doing. I knew the teacher was right, and that's what stuck with me. And in my own inner scorecard, I knew that if I bought stocks when other people were bailing, that in the long run, this would be a good decision. Did I really know how long it would be before the stock market recovered? Of course not. I also had no idea how long, if ever, the stock market would recover. I mean, there was always the chance, and I think a lot of people feared, believe it or not, that the stock market was doomed and that some of these companies, some of these stocks would never come back. But I think I'm more optimistic about the long run and about the strength of the US people and our economy. And at that time, that's what allowed me to have the confidence to buy shares of VOO, which is the Vanguard 500 index, and VB, which is the Vanguard Small Cap index. And you know, there's always a time when your confidence is tested, and when there's the chance to chicken out and do nothing, or be fearful, or to be strong and to go in big time. So number 3 in my examples here of knowing when the teacher is right and knowing when the teacher is wrong. I knew that the teacher was right when he taught the lesson about being greedy when others were fearful, and I just stuck with what I knew to be right. And it didn't matter to me that Buffett did not buy, because I didn't even know that at the time. And I would encourage anyone watching this and anybody trying to become a better investor, keep your own inner scorecard. Try to think independently and figure out what makes sense for you, because in a long life, you're gonna have certain decisions. Make the right decisions, you're gonna make things a lot easier for yourself. You can really set yourself up to be in a really good position to win. If you have any questions or any ideas, or you just wanna share your thoughts, please put them below in the comment section. I'll read them and I will reply to as many as I can. If you haven't already, please consider liking this video and also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this one. I'm real glad you were here. Thank you so much for dropping by. I will see you in the next video.